This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are over, the decorations are down, and suddenly everything feels a little empty. It's normal to feel the winter blues after the holiday excitement. January, February, and March are by far my least favorite months of the year. It's cold and dark, and I have to get some extra vitamin D on board. I also need to keep my regular scheduled appointments with my therapist. So if you're feeling that post-holiday funk, I definitely suggest you checking out BetterHelp because maybe it's time to talk. You might also be one of those people like me who makes New Year's resolutions and you get super motivated. So maybe you need someone behind you to hold you accountable and come up with a plan to meet your goals. BetterHelp is super convenient, totally online. You have a therapist right at your fingertips whenever you need them. So head over to betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 for 10% off your first month.
This podcast is an unscripted, unedited conversation about true crime. We take the cases very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all, and neither should you. Welcome to Wife of Crime.
So Russ, the case I'm going to tell you about today, I want you to let it serve as a cautionary tale to you and all of our listeners. Because I feel like sometimes we don't take stalking very seriously. But this case will show you that stalking can go in a really malevolent, disturbing direction. This is the murder of Dorothy Jane Scott. Hello, welcome back to Wife of Crime, true crime podcast, where I tell my husband my favorite true crime stories and he reacts to them.
I think they know that by now.
I know, but when people listen that are new, they might listen to the latest episode, so I have to say that.
All right.
So, did you hear or did you see that I posted on Instagram that Roy Norris from the Toolbox Killers died this week?
Yo, the insecure herbs are dead.
They're both dead.
Ding dong, the herbs are dead. The herbs are dead.
That was actually really funny.
None of this is scripted either. It just popped in my head.
Because you had this theory that they were lovers.
And I bet the other dude killed himself when his lover died.
No,
That's
he
what I was
apparently died of natural causes. But
yeah.
But
Heartbreak.
You had this theory, and they died within months. I mean, Lawrence Bittaker died on December 13th, Friday the 13th, and Roy Norris died a couple months later.
Yeah, just like The Notebook, romantically. They died one after another.
I know, it's crazy, right?
Or romantic.
Russ the Profiler strikes again.
Die of heartbreak.
What's your new saying that you said? That you
I didn't want to reveal it yet.
Oh, okay.
So since I'm a profiler, I profile the cases. My new saying is, I'm styling and profiling. I didn't want to reveal it yet. You're so annoying.
Sorry.
She's not sorry.
Also, I wanted to bring up, we got like 20 new reviews in 1 week on iTunes, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks for the reviews. We're really growing.
Most of them were 5 stars.
Yeah, we had a 5-star one that the lady said that at first she didn't like me, but then I grew on her, and I tend to do that. Like I grow on you like mold, and now you're stuck with me, and I'm in your lungs until you die. And then my favorite one was the 1-star. We got 1-star, and she said, I have inane comments. But what she doesn't know is I don't know what inane means. So I'm going to take that as a compliment. And I'm not going to look it up. And then she also said that I act like a 12-year-old boy. What I found funny is she must be single. Because if not, she would know all men act like 12-year-old boys, especially when we're drunk. So someone find her a boyfriend on wifeofcrimematch.com. Shout out to you.
That girl, I think her name's Kara. Shout out to Kara. You really did a number on Russ in that review.
No, I thought it was great. Listen. Who was that? Like, Kevin Hart said, if you don't got no haters, you ain't doing it.
That's true.
I'm doing it, Kara. Holla at your boy.
That's so
and I'm
funny.
not looking up a name. Huh.
So thank you guys for reviewing us. Like I said, we got like 20 new reviews in the last week, and 99% of them were 5-star. So thank you so much. It really helps our algorithm thing on iTunes.
We don't even know that. Other podcasts say it, so we just latch on, like, help out algorithm. I don't even know how to spell algorithm. It's next to the dictionary, next to a name.
Oh, God, I'm laughing a lot today. So I have a crazy story for you. Now, I have a question. Have you ever been stalked? No, like really stalked.
I'm handsome.
No, but have you ever been actually stalked?
Yeah, I remember when you used to like look through the window when I was at work.
No, I didn't.
Or like, how about now when I don't pick up the phone and you call 12 times in a row? That's stalking.
I'm your wife, so I can do whatever I want. But I mean actually stalked, like by a girl when you were in your dating world.
I don't know what stalking means. Someone calls you a lot. They text you too much.
Well, yeah, stalking is like a real thing. And I feel like stalking isn't taken really seriously, but it should be. So the case I'm going to tell you today is a cold case from 1980 that has really creepy details. And like I said, I think we like really downplay stalking a lot. Sometimes people don't take it seriously, but it's actually a real crime. Because really scary things can happen as a result of someone stalking you.
But it could be slightly flattering.
It can be, but in the case I'm going to tell you about today, it's not flattering at all.
I feel like it's only stalking if your stalker is ugly. But if your stalker is hot, it's not stalking, it's flirting.
No. But sometimes even if your stalker is hot, if they're crazy, then it's a problem.
Depends on how hot. If you're really hot, we don't consider you crazy.
What does that even mean?
So like,
you think hot girls aren't crazy? They're probably the craziest.
All girls are crazy. So there might be different levels to this.
Well, I'm going to give you some statistics. According to the Department of Justice, 1 in 6 women has experienced stalking so severe that they felt fearful and believed that someone close to them or themselves will be harmed or killed. And 1 in 19 men have experienced stalking to a level like this. So this is a real crime because stalking can turn into something really sinister.
Men can't be stalked.
Yes, they can.
Men are faster than women. They can run much faster.
Do you
can
know
run
what
away.
stalking is? It's when someone...
Like when they peek in your window.
No, it's when someone is following you, when they're calling you, when they cyber stalk you, they get online, they email you. They do crazy things.
See, to me, cyber stalking isn't really a thing because people are easily blocked.
Well, that's true. You can block people, but...
Unless you're in my face, you can't hurt me through an email.
No, but they might be able to find you. They might be able to find you online. They stalk you online to the point where they can find you and they can find your address and then they can show up at your house and then they can harm you.
Should we get off social media?
No, I'm just telling you that this is a real thing.
Because people could probably find me because I post pictures about like locations and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if you follow me, you don't want this smoke because you'll get this smoke. Because I always got 2 guns and a 6-pack with me. And I'm holding my arms up in there, my biceps and my stomach.
So another statistic, 76% of female intimate partner murder victims had been stalked by their perpetrators prior to their death. It's a very serious and very misunderstood crime, and it often goes underreported because people don't take it seriously.
Men don't get stalked.
Yes, they do, but let's move on.
But they're not in danger. It's just a crazy person.
Men can get killed too, Russ. We talk about women dying all the time, but men die too. and they can die from people who stalk them. A man or a woman stalking them can eventually hurt them.
Well, maybe a man stalking a man, that'd be tough.
So let the story I'm about to tell you serve as a cautionary tale to anyone who's experienced uncomfortable interactions and unwanted advances from another person. Take it seriously because it can turn into something incredibly sinister. So this is an unsolved murder from 1980, and this is the murder of Dorothy Jane Scott. Are you ready?
That's a yes in New York.
Dorothy was a 32-year-old single mom to an adorable 4-year-old boy named Sean. She lived in Stanton, California, with her aunt and her son. So according to her friends and family, she lived a pretty dull life. She didn't have much of a social life. She pretty much revolved her world around her son. She was working full-time. She worked in the back office of this business that her dad used to own. It was called Swingers Psych Shop.
Oh.
And no, it's not a swinger thing. It's connected to a head shop, and it's like a hippie store that sells
a head shop?
Yeah, they sell bongs.
That sounds like
weed. They sell, pipes for weed.
I thought that was called like a vape shop.
No, Russ, this is the 80s. This is back in the day when they used to sell, when they had bongs and pipes that they would sell at head shops. You've never been to a head shop?
That's not the head I know about.
Shut up.
I'm just saying, that's the only one I know.
Well, head shops are things where they sell bongs and pipes and other paraphernalia that you use to smoke weed out of.
Well, good thing they renamed those because people would have thought
they
it was
didn't
a prostitute
rename them.
place.
They still exist. Weirdo. You just have never heard of them because you live in this closed world of New York City.
I don't got a head shop. You go to Poppy and in the deli, they got everything.
Yeah, well, since you've never lived outside of New York, you don't realize that there are places called head shops that sell pipes and bongs. And she worked at a store.
And people in New York, they don't really smoke bongs and pipes. They use blunts.
You don't know what everybody in New York does with their weed.
Well, I know a lot of people in New York, and they don't use pipes and stuff.
They just smoke blunts.
Thug life.
Okay, so anyway, she was the secretary for this store, and the store was like a hippie store. They sold lava lamps and black light posters and bongs and pipes and a bunch of hippie shit. Like, shout out to my hippies, right? So
shave your armpits.
She did. So she did the books for this company. So she mainly worked in the back office, doing the books and the inventory and things like that. Her dad used to own this company, but he ended up selling his portion of the ownership to someone else, but stayed very involved with the business, okay? So her whole world was going to work every day at this place 5 days a week, and then she would come home. She was a very loving and attentive mom. She would come home and hang out with her son and put him to bed. That was pretty much how her normal week went.
That's nice.
Her parents lived 2 blocks from the store. So what she would do is drop her son off in the morning, go to work, and then pick him up from her parents' house because her parents would babysit him. So she had this normal, uneventful life up until mid-January of 1980. And Dorothy started receiving these very weird and disturbing phone calls, and she would get them randomly either at her house or at work. The voice was a man's voice, but it seemed like the voice was making an effort to disguise, like the person was making an effort to disguise their voice.
Like scream, "Hello, Sydney."
Yeah. Like they would,
"Hello, Dorothy."
Yeah, they would use they would have a little bit of a different pitch on their voice. So the phone call started with this person telling her how beautiful.
What's her name, Dorothy?
Dorothy Scott.
All right. Never mind. Go.
Yeah, that's her name, Dorothy.
I thought I lost track.
No, you're good. So the phone call started by this person telling her how beautiful she is, complimenting her, saying, "I'm in love with you. I think you're gorgeous. I want to be with you." But then after a couple weeks of these random phone calls, the content of the calls started escalating.
Would she respond, though? Is she having a conversation or is she clicking them?
No, she would listen and then click. She was getting freaked out.
But would she say something back? Because I'm curious.
Well, I'm not
like,
sure.
You're very beautiful. And she'd be like, oh, thank you, but I can't talk right now.
I don't think so, because she was very freaked out. So I'm not sure for a
Well, you got to do
fact.
like me. When people call me, like, eat a dick, click. Or like today, someone texted me, I don't know how, and they was like, are you voting for Bernie Sanders? And I'm not political at all, so I'm not taking any sides. But I said, if you text me again, I'm voting for Trump. And they said, have a good day. We'll never text you again. That happened today.
It did.
Yeah,
But you're not political.
Not at all. I'm not on either side. Hashtag Russ minds his business. And I just worry about my own self.
Well, I don't know actually how she responded to these calls. All I know is that based on what friends and family said, she was really freaked out and she didn't like them. So, like I said, they started off more complimentary. But then, as the weeks went by, the content escalated. And then the person started saying, oh, I saw you at the supermarket today. I really like the dress you were wearing. I really like that pink shirt.
Ooh,
that
that happened to me when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I forgot all about this. Someone would send my mom letters in the mail. I forgot all about this. This is nuts. And he would mention what we were doing. And like, oh, I saw your son and he was on the bench and
no.
I swear. And he would mention like what we were wearing and he would send my mom letters. And then I remember seeing this weird white guy in the hood, because I lived in the hood. It was mostly black people. Mm-hmm. Shout out to all my people. They probably don't even listen. Well, my boy Jay Boog does. That was my boy from when I was a kid. He couldn't catch me when we was playing football, though.
Keep going, Russ.
And this dude sent us letters. And I remember seeing some random dude, white guy in the hood, sitting on the bench.
Mm.
And I thought it might have been him.
That's really creepy.
But he was like sending letters about what we did, where we went, and stuff like that.
What did your mom do anything about it?
I don't think so, but we're still here.
Well, I know, but like, did she tell anyone? Police? Anybody? Friends? Family? Like, was she scared? Like, what happened? Nothing. Did they just stop?
I think it just stopped. I'm gonna have to ask her. Maybe we could interview her one day and ask her what happened.
Yeah, maybe were you a little kid?
Yeah, but he still didn't want this smoke. Me and my boys would have jumped him, even though we were like 8.
Well, I'm really interested. I'm gonna ask your mom.
Yeah,
I'm gonna text her. So now, like I said, the stalking started escalating, and he would say things just like what happened to your mom. He would say things like, I saw you in the grocery store. I really like that pink shirt you were wearing. You look beautiful today. I saw you go here. And then she started really getting scared. So after, the first few phone calls and when it started escalating, she'd mentioned it to her parents. And she told her parents, I hear this voice and I recognize something about it, but I just can't place who it is. But I know I've heard this voice before, which makes me think that it was probably someone that might have been an acquaintance. Because, when you have someone
customer at the store,
something like that, like someone that you see frequently, but not frequently enough to be able to recognize exactly who that person is. Like, if you heard my voice, you hear it all the time constantly, so you would be able to recognize me. But, you might not be able to recognize people that you see on a weekly basis.
I don't even recognize faces. I can meet someone and it just like dips out my head. So weird.
So now...
Was that an inane comment?
I don't know. So one night, the guy called her house and he said, when you go out to your car in the morning, I'm going to have something for you. So the next morning, she has to go to work. She goes out to the car, and there's a dead rose on her windshield.
Why dead? That's not romantic.
No, he's not romantic, clearly, Russ. He's not a romantic guy.
Yeah, but
he's crazy.
But he said he wanted to marry her.
Are you not following what's happening here? Eventually, this woman gets murdered. So... this is not a romantic gesture. This is a crazy person who is stalking her.
But didn't he say, like, I want to be with you, I want to marry you?
Yes, but then he's starting to escalate now and get really weird and creepy, following her around town.
But maybe it's because she didn't give the feelings back that he's getting to this point.
I don't know.
I'm trying to profile the case.
I don't know. So now Dorothy told everybody in her life about this, and the calls just kept getting increasingly more sinister and threatening. And he started saying things about hurting her and torturing her. And it really started getting her scared. So she decided to take self-defense classes because she felt very defenseless, which I totally am down with. I really want to take the Krav Maga classes because, number one, Joe Rogan says that they're good, and I believe everything Joe Rogan says.
Yeah, but he's a jujitsu dude.
I know, but he also co-signs Krav Maga. And I feel like as a woman, if you take a self-defense course, maybe you can't beat up a man, but if someone's threatening you, you can put up a solid fight or at least have confidence in yourself that you can fight back.
Carry motherfucking pepper spray him in the eye, everything's burning, they can't see, and it's over. You don't got to go through all these thousands of dollars worth of class. Carry a little can of thing in your hands when you're walking, and it's over.
Okay, well,
you know what I thought about too?
What?
You know why you probably gave her a dead rose?
Why?
They're free. The florist throws them out.
No, I think he was trying to. He's
broke.
thought out than that, Russ. No.
All right, so I'm not further into this case. You know the case, so that's why I'm just saying what's.
Yeah, I know.
I apologize for my inane comments.
So now, Dorothy did consider buying a gun, but she's afraid of guns. She's not a big fan of guns.
But so will the criminal be.
She went to the gun store. She looked at one. She went to purchase it, but chickened out at the last minute because she thought to herself, I don't even know how to handle this thing. And she's a little afraid of them. And some people are afraid of guns. And she also didn't want to bring a gun home to her house with her 4-year-old kid there. It's just something that made her nervous. So she ended up chickening out and not buying the gun. So she was super freaked out at this point, and to the point where she kind of became a recluse, even more than she already was.
Wow.
Because she was afraid to go out in public, knowing that someone is constantly watching her at all times. So even though she barely had a social life beforehand, now she was literally just going to work, coming home, going to church on Sundays, coming home and staying in her house because she was really scared of this person out there. So one of the last phone calls she received is proof that it had escalated to a really terrifying level. The man was yelling at her, calling her names on the phone, and then he said, okay, now you're going to come my way. I'm going to cut you up into little pieces, and no one will ever find you.
Wow.
And then hung up the phone.
That's so Scream.
Yeah, it is. And this was 1980, so this happened way before then.
Was that before caller ID?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This was before cell phones, caller ID, before all that.
I wonder if the police could trace calls back then.
Well, just wait. I will.
See, this is why they need me.
Just wait.
I'm ahead of it.
So about a week after this creepy phone call where he said he's going to cut her up into pieces, this is now May of 1980. So these phone calls have been going on for about 4 months, okay? She needed to stay late for a staff meeting after work. She doesn't normally stay late, but since it's a staff meeting, I guess it was important for the job. So she ended up staying. And during the staff meeting, she noticed that her coworker, his name's Conrad, he started looking really sick, like sweaty, pale, and he had like this red mark on his forearm, and he just didn't look good. So throughout the course of the staff meeting, he was getting worse and worse to the point where he was barely able to walk. So she was like, you know what? You really need to go to the ER. So her and another coworker named Pam took Conrad to the ER. On the way to the ER, she went to her parents' house because her parents only lived 2 blocks away from the store. So she went to her parents' house to tell them, you know, I'm not coming straight home to pick up Sean. I'm going to go to the ER with my coworkers. And while she was there, she changed her scarf from a black scarf to a red scarf, which is kind of an important detail later.
You know what's funny? If my coworkers needed to go to the ER, they're on their own. Except maybe like there's like 1 or 2 that like you really click with.
Yeah.
But if I was going to the ER and they're like, I'm gonna go with you, I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, but I've heard, from things I've read, these people were really close. It was a family business. Her dad used to own it. And I think that they were just a very close-knit group of coworkers. And everyone says that Dorothy was incredibly giving and just a really nice girl. So she probably offered to do it because she's just a nice person.
Or she should have went home and hung with her daughter.
Her son. She has a son.
Oh, well, I meant a kid.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Well, she didn't. And so, unfortunately, she took her coworker to the ER with her other coworker, Pam. And while they were in the ER, they found out that Conrad was bitten by a black widow spider, which apparently is pretty common in California. Mister, I want to move to California.
Yeah, that's true. But if you get bit by a spider, you turn into Spider-Man like Peter Parker. So he's going to be all right, and he's going to be slinging webs and fighting crime before you know it.
You are so corny.
Haters going to hate.
Oh, God.
Everyone knows.
Oh, I thought it would deter you from wanting to move to Cali if I told you about the spider because you don't like spiders.
Wait, so I can move to California, be warm, and a superhero all at once?
You're so
Sign
lame.
me up.
All right, so while he was getting examined by the doctors and back getting treated for this black widow spider bite, Dorothy and Pam hung out in the waiting room. And, he got discharged about 2 hours later, like around midnight. And Pam and Conrad went to the pharmacy to pick up his prescription because the pharmacy is in the hospital. So Dorothy says, you know what? I'll go grab my car. I'll pull up to the front because Conrad is having a hard time walking because he's very weak. So she goes out to the parking lot to grab her car. And Pam and Conrad, they were in line in the pharmacy line for about 15 minutes. So that should have been enough time for her to come back to the entrance of the ER. But they just, they were waiting for her and she never came. So then they're like, I wonder what's going on. So they walk towards the area of the parking lot where the car was parked. And as they're walking towards the area, they see Dorothy's car speeding towards them with the high beam lights on. And then all of a sudden, right before it gets to them, it makes a quick right turn and speeds out of the parking lot.
Was she driving?
They couldn't tell because it had the high beams on. So at first,
so whoever's in it did that so they couldn't see who's driving. I wouldn't even think of that. Obviously, I'm not a kidnapper.
Yeah,
it's not my thing.
Kidnapper. So they were like really weird, But it's weird to me because Conrad and Pam's first reaction wasn't, "Oh, Dorothy's in trouble." It was, oh man, maybe there was an emergency and she just left us. Like maybe there was an emergency with her kid, or maybe she forgot something at home and she just left.
But you don't think abduction of an adult.
No.
No one ever thinks that. Like, you just don't pick up a grown-up and steal them. You think of like a kid.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I guess in the moment, I don't know. I wasn't there. But in the moment, I found it just really strange that they were automatically assuming that she just went somewhere and didn't tell them. Because in my
you're overthinking.
In my opinion, if an emergency happened, why wouldn't she have been like, "Oh guys, oh my god, I'll be right back"?
Do you know why?
She drove near.
I'll tell you why.
Them. Why?
There's no cell phones in 1980.
No, she drove up to that, like almost up to them, and then turned right.
If you're in a rush, you can't be like, "Hey, my son's dying. He has 2 breaths left, and I might have wasted the last 2 talking to you."
Okay.
That rhyme, bars.
So what they did was they ended up going back into the emergency room, and they waited.
Was it a son or a daughter?
It was a son.
All right, I got it right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So they ended up going back into the ER, and they waited because they were like, okay, maybe she had an emergency or forgot something. Maybe she'll be back. They ended up waiting in the emergency room for an hour, and she never came back. And so then, which I found weird. You scrunched your eyebrows too. You found that weird too.
Yeah, and I can only scrunch one of them because I got in a car accident and lost a nerve in my left eyebrow. But they only random fun facts. But why didn't they leave?
Exactly.
What are they, babies?
I don't know. So they ended up sitting there waiting for her. And after about an hour to like an hour and a half, they finally called her parents from a payphone, which you would think they would have called them sooner. But they called her parents and they're like, "Hey, did Dorothy come back home?" And the parents are like, "No, we haven't seen her." So now that the parents know, they remember that she's been getting these crazy phone calls, the parents are automatically worried. Plus, they know their daughter, and they know she's not just going to disappear because she loves her son. Her whole world is revolved around her son. So it was just too weird for them. So they went to police right away.
Did she ever tell the cops that she was getting these phone calls, or it was just her like
She
parents and
just told
stuff?
her family and friends. She never went to the cops about the phone calls because I don't think she took them seriously enough to think that her life was actually in danger. Even though she was freaked out, I don't think she took it seriously enough, which is sad.
I kind of might have been the same way.
Yeah. Well, so her parents automatically were worried. They went to police right away, but of course, police didn't take it very seriously because she's a 32-year-old woman, and they were like, if she wants to run away, she can. But they told them about these crazy phone calls and everything, but they didn't really take it too seriously.
Well, that should change things.
Mm-hmm.
The phone call should change things. If a woman just speeds off and drives off,
Yeah, that's a different story.
maybe she's sliding off. She got a little bull on the side, something like that.
Well,
on the side, she got it's no boyfriend.
yeah, she doesn't have a boyfriend. So 1 week later, okay, now this is where it starts to get a little weird and crazy, okay? 1 week later, Dorothy's mother, Vera, was home alone, and she received a phone call at her house. It was a male's voice, and it said, "Are you the mother of Dorothy Jane Scott?" And Vera said, yes, I am, anticipating like somebody telling her where her, some news about where she is.
Yeah.
And he just says, "I've got her," and hung up. Okay.
These basic criminals would be finished if there was caller ID.
They would.
I'll find you.
So now her husband, Jacob, Dorothy's father, comes home from work, and he sees his wife is like devastated, distraught. She's really upset. This
Did
was
she call
disturbing.
the cops?
Yeah, she called the cops. She told them. Jacob comes home. They meet with the police. They're very upset, but the police advise them, don't go to the media yet, or don't talk to any newspapers. And you know what? The police just don't do enough. So after a little while, a couple days, Jacob's like, no, F this. I'm going to the newspaper. I got to get this out here. My daughter is currently missing and someone has her. So he goes to the newspaper. It's called the Santa Ana Registry. And he puts an article in there with a reward. Okay. The same day.
How much was the reward?
A few $1,000s, which was a decent amount back then.
Yeah, so that's decent now. Back then, that's probably like $10,000.
Yeah. And it's just for any information leading to her, whereabouts. So now the same day that this was published in the newspaper, the editor of the newspaper, his name is Pat Riley, he received a phone call. And the man on the phone call said, "I killed her. I killed Dorothy Scott. I loved her and she was cheating on me with another man, so I killed her." The caller said things that the public wouldn't know, that she had changed from a black scarf earlier in the day to a red scarf. He knew that they went to the hospital. He knew that the coworker had a spider bite. He knew all of these details. So
if this was a movie, we'd be like, the spider bite man might be him, and he's like trying to trick the whole plan, and there's two people in on it.
Well, we're going to get to our theories in a little bit.
But that's only my movie theory. In real life, that seems a little far-fetched.
Yeah. So the other thing that the guy said on the phone was that the man on the phone claimed that Dorothy had called him from the hospital. But Pam says, no. We were in the waiting room the entire time together. Dorothy went to the bathroom once, and I saw her walk in the bathroom and walk out. And they didn't have cell phones back then.
I don't know. Because women always go to the bathroom together, which is weird as shit.
Well, no, but she saw her walk into the bathroom. It was probably right in the waiting room. And there were only payphones back then. She didn't have a cell phone, so she couldn't have called. So this what I'm about to tell you takes the story to an even crazier level.
I like crazier stuff.
Okay? Because this is literally, like, you have to be a level 11 piece of shit to do what I'm about to tell you.
I don't know if you go higher than 10.
Nah.
Like, I always hate when people say I give 110%. It only goes up to 100, bro.
Well, we do our level piece of shits on this podcast. And this guy, for what he's about to do, is a level 11 piece of shit, in my opinion.
I created levels. You don't make the level rules.
Whatever. So Vera, Dorothy's mom, would then receive phone calls from this mysterious caller every single Wednesday
Fuck.
when her husband wasn't home for the next 4 years.
What?
Every Wednesday for 4 years, this man would call and he would say horrible things about the things he was doing to her daughter.
But she's
he
gone.
He would torture her over the phone by saying he's torturing her daughter. He's, I'm torturing her. I'm doing this. He was sexually assaulting her. He would go into detail and say these things. So Vera obviously got the police involved right away.
Yeah.
The police tapped the phone lines. But this guy would stay on the phone just long enough until there were seconds before the call could be traced.
Like
and
the
then
movies.
He hung up.
They'd be like, keep him on the phone. 3 more seconds. 3,
he would
2, 1. He hung up. Or,
Yeah.
then we got him.
And he would hang up every time. So he knew how long it takes for a phone call to be traced. And he would hang up literal seconds every time before it would get
That
traced.
motherfucker.
For 4 years. Okay, which is nuts.
What? He definitely had like a stopwatch.
I don't know.
Oh, there's no way you can't keep exact count in your head.
Yeah, probably. It's crazy. So then one day
Damn.
he called and Jacob, Dorothy's father, picked up the phone. And the caller was silent. He didn't say anything to Jacob. He stayed quiet and then he just hung up.
Punk ass bitch.
He enjoyed harassing the mother. And this is one thing I thought of. What if Jacob could recognize his voice? Because what if Jacob knew him? Or he was connected in some way, and he knew that if he spoke to Jacob, he would recognize him.
Good point. That could be something.
So this was 1984, and for a while after Jacob picked up the phone, the calls stopped, okay? And then later on that year, that same year, Dorothy's remains were found near a construction site. At this point, it was just scattered bones. It was just bones now, okay?
So they can't tell how long she's been dead at that point. It's just...
Yeah. So one thing that's very strange is she was buried underneath dog remains. So there was her and then some dirt and then dog remains on top, which is an interesting detail we will discuss later.
Yeah. So whoever killed her had a dog, and maybe you could figure out what kind of dog it was. You could find out what people had that kind of dog in that neighborhood.
Possibly.
Because certain dogs are bigger than others.
Yeah,
possibly.
possibly.
Biggie's fat as shit and he's little.
Yeah.
And Lucy's tall.
It's true. So now, there was also a gold watch with the remains, and the time on the gold watch stopped on May 29th, 1980 at 1:29 a.m. And Dorothy had gone missing May 28th, the night of May 28th, so the watch had stopped a few hours after she had gone missing.
Yeah, but watch batteries last a long time. So if I went missing, my watch might be good for another year from now. So that...
No, I'm just telling you that was found. I'm not saying it indicates anything.
Yeah.
I was just saying that was another thing that was found, and that her watch had stopped only a couple hours after she had gone missing.
As a professional podcast profiler, I dismiss that one.
Okay. It wasn't anything to add. It was more just a detail, not really something to think it was anything. So now the calls didn't stop. Okay.
Wow.
He called 2 more times, and guess what he said? After they put it out in the public that her remains were found, they did a funeral and everything. He called 2 more times and said, "Is Dorothy home?" And click.
Motherfucker.
Doesn't this make you mad? Oh, you have to be a really terrible person to...
So this is unsolved, you said?
This is unsolved.
I'll beat his ass.
So you have to be a really terrible person to not only kill an innocent woman who's done nothing, to stalk her and torture her, then kill her. Now you're torturing her family for years, calling them like that? I mean, that's terrible.
I would have got on the phone and tried to provoke him so bad so he could try to come to my house. Because I would shoot the shit out of him.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, when I was reading about this at first, I was getting as mad as you're getting right now. It's really upsetting. So now, obviously, the initial suspect was Dorothy's baby father, okay?
Obviously, it's always a spouse.
His name's Dennis. But Dennis had a rock-solid alibi because he lived in Missouri, and he was in Missouri at the time. There was proof. And he wasn't very involved in the kid's life and Dorothy's life, to be honest. They weren't really close or anything.
Deadbeat?
A bit of a deadbeat, yeah.
Probably no child support ass motherfucker.
Yeah, so he was out in Missouri, so he was, crossed off.
So Dorothy's parents and friends, they insisted to the police she didn't have a boyfriend. There's literally no way. We had her kid. She would go to work, pick up her kid, come home, go to church on Sunday, and that is the extent of her life. She lived with her aunt. Her aunt was always knew where she was. Her parents always knew where she was. They insisted, and so did all of her friends and coworkers. They all insisted there was no man in this woman's picture. She was focused on her kid and working, and that's it.
Good woman.
So let's talk about theories. Okay, because I have a few. I want to see what you think about them.
Okay.
Now, it's obvious that this man knew her, right? And because she recognized the voice but couldn't place the voice. So like I said, I think it could have been an acquaintance. Also, like I said before, when Jacob answered the phone, the caller stopped talking or didn't say anything and hung up because possibly Jacob could have recognized him.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So this made me think it could have been someone connected to work, to the psych shop, right?
Head shop.
The head shop or the psych shop. They were right next door to each other. So it could have been a vendor. She worked in the back office. She didn't deal with customers. She dealt with vendors, with, delivery people.
Yeah, it could have been a delivery guy just uses the bathroom and walks through the back or something like that.
Yeah, it could have, because, these vendors, you see them on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. So that's somebody that she could hear a voice and be like, oh, what's that voice? And couldn't place it. So that's something I thought of. It also could have been somebody who worked at the head shop next door, because maybe they don't work together on a daily basis, but they work right next door to each other.
I mean, it could have been like the guy that like in the pizza shop. You go get your pizza there once a week because you eat pizza or whatever, tacos or whatever food you like.
But since she mainly stayed home and went to work, I was thinking it could have been work.
So it has to be something to do with work. It could be a gas station she frequents.
Yeah.
But you got to figure out where she frequents. It isn't someone that just saw her once.
No, not at all. We might go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here. Okay, you ready? What do you think about Pam and Conrad? Do you think that they're involved in any way, or do you think that's a little too far-fetched?
It's not impossible, but the other girl went with them too to the hospital.
Nope, that's Pam.
Pam and Conrad.
Conrad was the one that had the bite. Pam is the one that went. Do you think that Pam and Conrad had anything to do with it?
No.
Okay, so they're out. And to be honest, I don't either. Some Reddit people, I went down the Reddit rabbit hole with this one because with these unsolved crimes, you can go down this Reddit rabbit hole where there's just theory after theory after theory. Some people brought up Pam and Conrad. I tried to research them. There's literally nothing about them on the internet. So I don't think
not Pam. Conrad is somewhere slinging webs. He's a Spider-Man right now.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and say they're scratched off the list. Now, I have another one for you. This is very interesting. At this time, there was a man who was stalking, raping, and killing people, and his name was Joseph James D'Angelo, a.k.a. the East Area Rapist.
Oh!
Golden State Killer.
That's the crazy... If you don't know about the Golden State Killer...
We'll do him one day.
Check him out one day. That, to me, that's a long one, because that book was crazy. He was killing for like 20 years. I don't know, a lot of years.
But it's the only true crime that Russ really knows a lot about is the Golden State Killer. And he was in this exact area at this exact time. His MO was calling you.
He used to call people, and he would like breathe in the phone.
Yeah.
But he didn't talk that much.
He didn't talk that much, which is true. And it's something to, think about. Like, he would call his victims, the women he would rape, he would call them for years afterwards and just breathe into the phone and do creepy stuff.
Yeah, but he would breathe. He wouldn't like talk shit.
Yeah. So, but that's just something to think about. The other thing to remember about him, and this is something you could think about with him, is he was in law enforcement.
Oh, so he knew how long before he had to hang up the phone.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's a decent theory.
It could be.
Yeah. So he knew how long before a phone call was traced. He also knew that if you bury a person and you bury a dog on top of them, if they use cadaver dogs, they would smell the dead dog and the person, but the cops would only probably dig deep enough to see that it was a dead dog, and they would stop digging.
All right, well, when you said that he would hang up before a certain amount of seconds, we don't know how long the seconds are, I thought this is someone in law enforcement.
Yeah.
I thought that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's fair to say because back then you couldn't just go on the internet and Google nothing. There's no internet. When you wanted to know something back then, you asked your friend. And if your friend didn't know, you asked a couple more people. You just didn't know shit.
That's true. You just didn't know things.
Yeah, I remember asking my friend for Nintendo codes. And there was like one kid in school that knew them all. He was the Google of Nintendo codes, the cheat codes.
That's really funny. So yeah, that's an interesting theory that people have brought up, and I think that's really interesting. Don't know if it's 100% like a possibility, but he was in that area at that time. He had a similar MO. He was in law enforcement. It would make some sense.
I wonder if how early that was in his career. Was that like when he first started calling people?
I gotta look up when Joseph James D'Angelo started, and around when, if I know it was the 70s, but I don't remember the exact year.
Yeah, like when he started calling people and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to give you my...
Oh, they could check for DNA. Because they have his DNA now. So I wonder if there's any DNA on her body or anything.
Well,
like
it's bones.
Her remains.
So I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I don't know. I think it might be too far gone for the DNA situation, but who knows? So now the last theory, is a man named Mike Butler. Okay. Now, Mike Butler, this is what a lot of people, especially Reddit people, this is where the direction that they go in. Because Mike Butler moved from Rhode Island with his family to Anaheim, California. And his sister worked with Dorothy. Okay. Now, it was rumored that Mike had some psych issues, that he was a little bit of an odd guy and a little weird. And one thing that Dorothy's son found out years later, when he was an adult, her son has investigated his mother's murder. And one thing that he found out from talking to a lot of her friends is that Mike Butler was obsessed with his mom. People say Mike Butler, he loved Dorothy, he was obsessed with her. And now that would make sense. It would make a lot of sense because Dorothy worked with his sister, so he would probably come in once in a while. She might have seen him at events or, come into the shop here and there. So she would recognize his voice, but not be able to say for sure that it was him. He was already obsessed with her. And he was a odd, weird guy, and you got to be a real odd, or you have to have some psych issues or just be a terrible person to be able to do something like this.
Yeah, but I don't think being off and a little crazy, because I know a lot of off people that are a little crazy. Like you're in a bar, you see the weird guy coming, you're like, oh, damn it, there goes the weird guy that's not going to shut up. But that doesn't mean he's going to kill people.
It's true. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And we will never know because Mike Butler died in 2014. So we'll never know if it was him. But that was the probably more popular possibility with people who still talk about this crime. But cops never investigated him. So who knows?
Could or couldn't be.
So there's so many possibilities and so many theories and no answers. And this is one of those cases that after you hear the entire thing, you have way more questions than answers. And this was never solved. It's still a cold case. And Sean Scott may never know what happened to his mother, unfortunately.
That sucks. But, being him, just take, be happy, how much your mom loved you and just dedicated her life to you and working. There's something to that.
There is.
You meant a lot to her.
Yeah. Shout out to the single moms who really take care of their kids and do a good job, because it's a hard thing to be a single mom, and it's so sad. She did a great job, and this situation is awful. But there's no answers. And
these are one of those cases that, when I used to listen to true crime podcasts, that the cold cases at the end, you're like, wait, that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
I want to know the rest.
There's no rest. So those theories are pretty solid theories, but we'll never know who killed Dorothy Jane Scott.
Damn.
But it's crazy because I just think this story is such a cautionary tale about stalking. Stalking can turn into this. It can get that dangerous.
But I would think now with the internet and all the DMs and stuff like that, people might think they're being stalked more than they would back then. People sending messages. I guess there's a line somewhere. Mm-hmm. I don't know where the line is.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're not a creeper who
stalking.
randomly messages random people all the time. So like you're not a creeper like that. So you don't even think about it. But there are some really creepy, weird people.
Yeah,
out
I'm
there.
not. But I will troll you a little, make fun of you.
But you're not going to message people and make fun of them.
No, I'll do it on a post for everyone to see. Because you have a good joke, you can't let it go to waste on one person. You need the world to see.
Oh, so interesting case. I really like this one. I found it really interesting, but I also find it so sad. But that's it.
All right, guys. Well, I guess it's another week wrapped up. We'll say our spiel. Check us out on Instagram at Wife of Crime Pod. We are there full time. We respond to pretty much everything. Jess does.
And Facebook.
Oh, and Facebook. It's the Wife of Crime.
The Crime Family.
The Crime Family. Check that out. And I think that's all we got.
Yeah.
And hashtag vote for Russ. Let the campaign live on. Maybe in 2024, I'll be president.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful week. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Peace.